Hey guys, Kevin Cleary here with a knife news video. Now, I want to do a couple of little channel items before we get into the knife news, but these will be interesting items. Number one, I want to say Happy New Year. This is New Year's Eve 2016. Also, though, we've reached the 3,000 subscriber mark, so there will be a giveaway coming up in the next week, so the first week of 2017. That said, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. Number one, the giveaway will only be open to subscribers, and number two, you may miss the video and not be eligible at all. So go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss that. As well, next week I am going to post a for sale video, so be watching for that one. The other thing is, in stuff that's coming up, you guys know I've done some first impressions that I know people are waiting to see reviews on, but this is a really cool little Kiradashi from Real Steel. I've got a few things in from Real Steel recently that I'm pretty impressed by, so those reviews will be coming up. Sorry about that, I had to watch when I put that away so I didn't cut myself. So those things will be coming up. So that's pretty interesting stuff. The other thing I want to say is thank you to Knife News for continuing to put out really cool, interesting content and for providing content for this video. If you're not following them on their social media feeds, you know, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and stuff, you probably want to go ahead and do that. They do put out interesting, cool news stories on a regular basis. So if you're into knives and you want to know, you want to be able to look ahead of what to maybe save your money for, then they're worth following for sure. Now let's get into the news items that I want to touch on, from new models coming out to different companies doing different things that I find interesting or hopeful and want to comment on. Okay, basically that's what we do in these videos. I take news stories, I comment a little bit on them, and for further information, I don't share the whole story. That's not the purpose, that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to sort of converse with you about it. So I'd love to hear your comments below about any of these stories, but also, since it is New Year's Eve, let's hear your New Year's resolutions in the comments below. First up is Buck. Buck is going to introduce some new variations of the 110. Now, this is a pretty standard procedure in any industry. They know the 110 is popular and they're trying to gain back some market share. I don't think this is the way to go. I'm not that interested in the 110, right? And I think most modern knife enthusiasts are, they'll recognize, hey, it's an iconic knife. It made a huge impact in the industry, but its days are over, kind of. So I think they could have gone, there are better choices they could have made. And I really think what Buck needs to do is, number one, step up quality control on the more budget-friendly knives. I can't tell you how many, when I go in the forums, when I watch videos about Buck knives, how many complaints there are about quality control. And that hurts really, really badly. When you see a bunch of YouTube videos all complaining about the same type of stuff, you go, come on, like, what's the deal? That's number one. Number two, this is the age of modern tactical folders. And you've got to sort of step up that part of your game and offer more than one decent model a year in order to really make a splash. So if anyone from Buck is watching this, you've done some great stuff. The Buck 830 is awesome. The Vantage series is awesome. The 110 is a classic, and it was well done for its time. But you kind of have to deliver what consumers want if you want to be successful. That's sort of how capitalism works. Anyway, moving on. The next company that I want to talk about is Kaiser. Now, we talked in the last video about how Kaiser was reducing their number of models offered and trying to be a little more purpose-driven, and I think that's a great move for them, and I love what Kaiser has been doing recently. This year, though, especially, the Kaiser Megatherium. I'll put a link in the description box below, but Epic Snuggle Bunny did a video of this. It is really, really a nice looking blade. Probably the most exciting thing I've seen from Kaiser since the Roach. And the Roach is a knife I absolutely love. And if you haven't seen my review, go and check that out. But it's honestly the thing I'm most excited about from Kaiser. And really, I'm pretty excited about it just in general, even over a lot of other stuff. So the Megatherium, pretty cool. The Feist, which is a Justin Landquist design. I follow Justin on Instagram, and he shared, hey, Kaiser's coming out with one of my designs, which was pretty exciting. So those two things from Kaiser. I'm looking forward to a lot of really cool stuff from Kaiser this year. They just seem to be continuing to move in a really, really good direction. What about the Para 3? Anybody really into the Para 3? To me, I don't know, the Para 2 was already just the right size. I wouldn't want it any smaller, possibly a little bigger. In fact, what I would have liked to see is a military 2 that had a compression lock like the Para 2. That would have been a dream come true for me. But they went smaller. And I know there are length restrictions and all kinds of stuff, and size does matter. And some of you like smaller things and, you know, whatever. But the Para 3 for me is just not that exciting. You know, I already have a Para 2. I already love it. It's nearly perfect. I didn't need any changes. So anyway, Para 3. Boker Toucan is a cool design. These are all stories coming directly from Knife News, by the way. So if you want more about any of these, by the way, I will say in the story about the Para 3, they're quite impressed by it. They have no issue at all with quality or anything like that. My issue would just be the size. It's just not big enough for me. Boker Toucan, another knife that's not big enough for me, but the opening mechanism is really, really cool. So it's worth watching the little video in this story to kind of see how it works. It's a really interesting knife. And then finally, you know, if you're like me, you like titanium frame locks. You know, I've got a few of them here. Tons of variation, right? All different versions of a titanium frame lock. By the way, that was the Viper Fortis, the WE 601, and the Hinderer XM18 in the Wharncliffe. Okay. Sometimes I forget to mention them, guys. And if I do, you know, you guys are pretty good about mentioning in the comments, hey, what was that knife you showed at this time? But, you know, keep doing that. The odd time I will forget. Anyway, so if you like titanium and you like the Griptilian, Flytanium, which is a pretty well-known, they really have made their name making paramilitary 2 scales, and they do a great job of it. I haven't gotten any. Again, I like my Para 2 the way it is, but they're now expanding to offer Griptilian scales. And the story says a few other popular models will be coming this year. So I'm really interested to see what they do. I've only ever heard good things about them. And so I've often kind of thought about getting some tie scales for my Para 3. What I would wish for is that Spyderco would do a titanium version of the Para 2. That would be just awesome. A titanium frame lock Para 2 would be, yeah, just perfect. Anyway, Flytanium scales for your Griptilian, that's a pretty cool thing, and so I wanted to go ahead and mention it to you. Now, let's go on to sort of some company news, some industry news. One, CRKT and SOG are both getting some new leadership. CRKT, it's from within, and CRKT, here's, both of these companies are sort of mass market directed, okay? These are companies that want their knives in Walmart and Bass Pro so that the average person who doesn't watch this kind of video will buy their stuff, okay? And I totally get it. There's way more money there than there is, you know, focusing on a niche market. However, you know, CRKT is less this way. SOG is really, really this way. You know, SOG feels like they're a knife company that doesn't care a thing about knives, they just like money. Okay, and I get it, right? If you're in business, you're in business to make money. But the reason nothing is compelling from them is because there's no passion. They're not passionate about knives. And I think the end user, you know, especially myself and other knife enthusiasts, we can feel that. And we go, yeah, whatever, SOG, just keep making your knives for the average person who knows nothing about knives, okay? So that's and CRKT is a little bit that way. They do, you know, at least they do collaborations with designers, and there seem to be some people at CRKT that are genuinely into knives and like the outdoors, and like they have some of those interests, and so they're maybe a little more authentic. But you know, SOG just feels like Gerber to me. They're just a brand interested in selling a bunch of junk to people who don't know what they're buying. Anyway. Moving on, I know I was overly negative there, but that's how I feel. Finally, one of the coolest stories here, and I thought about doing a video just about this story, but then I was like, you know what, let's include all the knife news. Emerging brands for 2017. Now, here's where I got a question for you guys. You know, the emerging brand story, go ahead, click over to Knife News and read it. But I'd really like to hear in the comments below what companies you think are kind of the emerging brands. I don't disagree at all with the suggestions that Knife News is making. They bring up Fox with their Tashi Baruka collaboration, which looks amazing. They bring up Steel Will with their new designs that are sort of a little more budget friendly, and they already have a lot of budget friendly knives. So Steel Will, and I really am expecting some cool stuff from Steel Will. They've definitely proven they can do some awesome things. So I'm excited to see what they have. Millet Knives. Now Millet Knives they were a company that just did work for everybody else, right? So if you were, you know, let's say I'm some Joe Blow popular designer and I want to do a mid-tech knife, I would call up Millet Knives and say, hey guys, can you take this custom knife of mine and make it for me, you know, in a shop, a factory shop? And they'd say, okay, great. And so they were known for very high-end, you know, high-quality stuff. They decided to go on their own and say, hey, we're just going to make the knives. We're going to make some of our own designs. Now, I think they're still going to do other work, but it's pretty cool what they've done with this first knife that they've got coming out. And so I'm looking forward to the other stuff that they do. By the way, I'll just roll in a picture from the last time we talked about this. Finally, a knife company that is pretty cool. And this knife is not their knife. This is the Viper Fortis. But they do have the Giant Mouse. Giant Mouse is the company we're talking about. It's a Vox. Why can't I think of the other designer's name? Please, someone comment below with that. Come on. Voxness and... Oh, it's driving me crazy that I can't think of it. Sorry, guys. Anyway, Giant Mouse is a collaboration between them, and they're doing sort of a mid-tech knife, and they're really, really well done. I've watched a number of reviews. I really want to get my hands on one, but they're all sold out. So certainly I agree with that assessment as a company to watch. And then finally, WE Knives. And you guys know I love WE Knives. I've made it no secret. I have a few of their models. They do a really, really good job. And now they've got some G10 models coming out that look really, really nice, that are going to be certainly more affordable. And so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, you know, WE Knives tend to be a little out there. Okay, bright colors, interesting designs. You can see it here. But they, you know what? I really, really like the stuff that they do. And they certainly do it at a high, high level of quality. Okay, so those are the sort of upcoming knives or the knife companies to watch. And I agree with that assessment. And I really wouldn't add, you know, I can't think off the top of my head of a knife company to really be excited about other than those. I already mentioned Real Steel Knives once, and I would maybe add those to the list because they seem to be doing some really cool stuff. I know they're owned by Boker, but their quality is impeccable. And that is not something that Boker is able to do with any consistency. So, you know, whoever's in charge of CQC at Real Steel should be in charge of CQC for Boker in general, and maybe they could pull things together that way. Anyway, moving on now. Finally, the last story I wanted to talk about is the biggest knife shows around the world. And this was a really neat story. Please, if you've been to a few knife shows, comment below. This is something, you know, I live in Canada, and so essentially I would have to take a week's vacation to go to most of these shows. There's a couple that I could do in a long day trip, a long weekend type of thing. But most of them would be an extensive cost and a lot of time away. And so it's not practical for me to do this most of the time. You know, maybe for 2018, I could go to Blade Show, you know, make it a family vacation, go over to the ocean, stuff like that. But, it's always been a dream of mine to do SHOT Show, Blade Show, and a couple other big knife shows. That would be so awesome. So if you've done that, I'd love to hear in the comments below some of your experiences. But the cool thing about this story is, especially if you're new to knives, you know, this story kind of gives you a quick rundown of all of the big knife shows that draw a lot of people that are influential in the industry. And so, you know, if you're kind of new to this and you really want to sort of immerse yourself and you know, get a lot of information right away, go to any one of these shows, and I think you probably have a lot of fun. And would learn a lot and really sort of be, you'd have a leg up in terms of your hobby right away. So there you go, guys. Those are all the knife news stories I've got for you. Don't forget, as I said, to subscribe so you won't miss the videos coming up in the next few days. Have a great new year, and we will talk to you soon.